I'm Karen Fingerman. I direct the Center on Aging and Population Sciences, which is one of the other P30s. And I also direct the Texas Institute on Dementia, Aging, and Longevity. I'll tell you more as we go through our materials, but I'll let Sabah introduce himself.
Hi everyone, I'm Sibo. I'm a fifth year graduate student working with Karen.
Okay, so we're going to talk today about the challenges of research with Lewy body dementia caregivers. If you've heard me speak before, this may not have moved forward a whole lot because we're still collecting data, but we have promised ourselves we will stop in mid-July, and I will tell you a little about our study. Just to begin with Lewy body dementia, the reason we're focusing specifically on this form of dementia, it is the current term that encompasses dementia with Lewy bodies and Parkinson's disease with dementia. And just so you know, it has a shared pathophysiology with Parkinson's disease at autopsy. The Lewy bodies are formed by a misfolding of the asynuclein protein, and that's what creates Lewy bodies, and it's actually through other parts of the body too. And 80% of cases of Parkinson's will become Lewy body dementia if the person lives long enough. So it's a sad constellation here. It has an incredibly demanding set of symptoms. Nobody has ever said, hooray, I have Alzheimer's, but this is a compilation of symptoms that is almost mind-boggling. And you can have comorbidity with Alzheimer's, but I won't get into that. It does have the cognitive symptoms common to shared by dementias, the difficulty thinking, getting lost. Apathy is much higher here. Agitation, and of course, anxiety, depression, and mood that we see in all dementias. I did not include memory here. It is a symptom, but it is not as big a symptom as we see in other forms of dementia. We do see, however, the motor symptoms of Parkinson's, and that includes the rigidity, the slow movement, the blank face, weak voice, trouble swallowing, blood pressure is up and down all the time. All of that is part of this. So you've got that, and then you have a whole other host of symptoms. And these are some of the ones that we focused on because they are distinct and they are overwhelming. So people with LBD have hallucinations more often and delusions. They're more likely to say, you're trying to care for them and they're saying you're having an affair and, you're whatever it is, the delusions that are really hard on family members. They have an REM sleep disorder, which is distinct. I mean, again, with dementias, we see sundowning. With LBD, you get the person to sleep and they act out their dreams. Usually in healthy individuals, you're kind of paralyzed during your REM sleep phase. That is not the case for LBD. They act out their dreams, which can include grabbing onto a caregiver, throwing things, doing all kinds of things that you can imagine from a dream. And they have a lot of visual processing problems. Now, one of the things that is most disturbing to caregivers is the speed of cognitive fluctuations. In many dementias, you have good and bad days. In LBD, you have good and bad hours. So it's just a constant swap between lucidity and being disturbed and being apathetic. It's an incredible compilation during the day. We knew all this when we got started. It's a 24/7 disease in a much more profound way than some other dementias. That's why we focused on doing an EMA design, and we'll show you what we did. We limited our study to the primary caregiver residing with the person experiencing Lewy body. We will show you 197 caregivers so far. We told NIA that we would get 150, so we've passed it, but our problem is that we are disproportionately white women with college education. And so we have become determined to try to diversify that sample at least enough to have to do analyses. And I'm going to put in the chat the link to our study. If you know any men, anyone from an ethnic, racial, underrepresented group, please help us get those last few participants. Okay, we had a community stakeholder board, We brought in support group leaders, LBD past caregivers, an LBD current caregiver, and a person with early stage LBD. And this was really complex to put together because these two groups you have to get at the very last minute. LBD progresses incredibly rapidly. It can be a year and a half from diagnosis to death. We had so many recruitment sources, including people like you. Please help us. But we also have the Healthy Black Elders group has been really helpful to us, and we missed putting that on here. But we're now doing research. It's been a huge effort. I think we have close to 100 recruitment sources for 197 participants. Our participants, we're just reporting on 194. We got like 3 more in the past week and a half, but we didn't include them. They do tend to be a little younger than caregivers for other dementias because it does hit a little younger, often, particularly than Alzheimer's. And most of them are spouses because they have to live with them, but not all. The person with Lewy body is symptomatic, and some of these have been for many years. Although I said it can progress rapidly, it may have started as Parkinson's and progressed to Lewy body, in which case we don't have the exact cutoffs. We do know that they're doing a lot of caregiving tasks. So these are very heavy demands, people who are highly symptomatic, and they're living with them. Study overview. We do a 10-minute phone call. They actually fill out a form or they email us or so on. We do a 10-minute phone call, explain the study, and get some basic information from them. Basic information includes, we try to talk to the person with Lewy body because we are going to ask them to wear a Fitbit, and we try to do that right from the start to ensure that they want to be a part of this. Then we send them a packet, which I'll show you. We do a baseline interview that lasts about 2 hours because people really want to tell their stories. Then we do a walkthrough of our devices, which I'll show you as well, because that's our key thing, is we're tracking people throughout the day for 4 days. They do the EMA survey every 3 hours. That's the ecological momentary assessment, brief surveys. They wear a Fitbit because we're catching heart rate variability, sleep phases, and activity. And then in states where it's legal, which excludes Michigan, by the way, 40 states, it's legal to use the electronically activated recorder. And we are doing that. We have 87 cases that have done it so far. It's getting harder and harder to get people to do this because they're worried about how data will be used, perhaps justifiably. We're under confidentiality, but in the full world, it's a lot more concern. This is the package we send. We send 2 smartphones because you have to sync each Fitbit to the smartphone. So we need 2. Only the caregiver does the surveys. We have the charger, we have a stylus, it has our little logo. We give them this case to carry everything around in. We don't use their phone I don't have time. I could explain it all to you. We have all of this. We have a return FedEx. We have a map of where their FedEx things are, consent form, and the respondent booklet. We also have a booklet that explains all of this. I don't have a photo of it. On that little handheld device, in addition to the EMAs, at the end of the day, they just tell us what went well and what went badly for them. And it's really, really compelling. They loved doing this so much that we had to leave the opportunity in the middle of the day. So now they can do it twice, and they love it. They press a button if there's agitation throughout the day. So we will be able to look at some of the antecedents, the consequences of agitation. And then I already mentioned that's all on the phone. I'm going to switch over now to tell you our hypotheses, and I'm going to switch it over to Sibo. So I'll just say switch slide, if that's okay. And
Okay.
I'll let you talk about, I have to tell you that Sibo is doing his dissertation on this. So he's been looking at the data a lot more than anyone on the team. So he's much better equipped to present it than I am.
Thank you, Karen. So here I'm presenting some preliminary findings that we have. So first set of findings are regarding like LBD symptoms. So here we have 2 hypotheses. First, we hypothesized that a greater number of symptoms would be associated with worse caregiver mood in the same 3-hour period. And second, we hypothesized that LBD-specific symptoms would show stronger associations with caregiver mood than other symptom categories in the same 3-hour period. Next slide, please. So here are some descriptives of the symptoms and caregiver mood. So on the left side, we can see the symptoms. We can see that blank staring, difficulty of walking, and not understanding what other people say are the most frequent symptoms that caregivers observe. And on the right side, we have the caregiver mood. So on average, caregivers have a medium level of positive mood and a low level of negative mood. Next slide, please. Thank you. Before running the multi-level models, we calculated the intra-class correlation or the ICC of LBD symptoms, which allows us to see the fluctuation of these symptoms throughout the day. So a higher ICC means that there's greater within-person stability, while a lower ICC means there's greater within-person fluctuation throughout the day. So here's a table that summarizes the ICC of each symptom categories and the within-person variability. So overall, we can see that the within-person fluctuation accounted for 34 to 61% of total symptom variance, and it suggests that LBD symptoms fluctuate meaningfully throughout the day. Next slide, please. So here we are not presenting the results for hypothesis 1, but indeed we found that a greater number of symptoms was associated with worse mood in the same 3 hours. In this slide, we are presenting the results for hypothesis 2. So we run multi-level models and control for a series of covariates. So first, let's look at the within-person findings. We found that all categories of symptoms were associated with worse mood in the same 3 hours, except that the motor symptoms and positive mood, the association was not significant. And at between person level, we can see that cognitive symptom was associated with lower level of positive mood on average, and motor, cognitive, and emotional symptoms were associated with higher levels of negative mood on average. And in some, we can see that it seems that cognitive and emotional symptoms show stronger association with mood than LBD-specific symptoms and motor symptoms. So here our hypothesis 2 is not supported. Next slide, please. So here we run another set of analysis looking at caregiving tasks. So similarly, we have two hypotheses. First, a greater number of caregiving tasks would be associated with worse mood in the same 3-hour period. And second, tasks directly involving the care recipient symptoms, such as managing emotional distress or cognitive challenges, would show stronger associations with caregiver mood than instrumental caregiving tasks in the same 3-hour period. Next slide, please. Here are the descriptives for caregiving tasks. So in 78% of the EMA surveys, participants reported they had done at least one caregiving task in the past 3 hours. And when we look at the different categories of caregiving tasks, we found that household activities was the most frequently engaged caregiving tasks, and transporting or accompanying the care recipient to other places is the least frequent caregiving task. Next slide, please. Yes. So for hypothesis 1, the results are not presented here, but not surprisingly, we found that a greater number of caregiving caregiving tasks was associated with worse mood. And here we are presenting the results for hypothesis 2. Similarly, we run multi-level models, and we found that engaging in emotional and cognitive support was associated with a lower level of positive mood and a higher level of negative mood in the same 3-hour period. And we didn't find any significant effect between person effects. So for this section, both our hypotheses were supported.
I'm going to do the conclusions. It's interesting that it makes perfect sense that the motor symptoms don't fluctuate much, because if you think about it, if you're not able to walk and you're in a wheelchair, as much as your lucidity may change and your hallucinations may change and your mood may change, you're not going to show a major change in that level of motor function. And so once we thought it through, that's not surprising. The full range of symptoms are problematic for positive and for negative mood. We didn't find that LBD symptoms in particular are the problem. It's the constellation. It's just, it's what caregivers handle. The emotional issues created the greatest distress beyond those physical demands of caregiving tasks. And this, I think that as we begin to explore, we may discover that is linked to fluctuations. It's very difficult on the person experiencing LBD as well for their mood. We are looking at the dyadic issue, at the changes in the relationship, at some of those issues going forward, and that'll take quite a bit for us to get the data organized, if you will. We've got so many different levels of analysis, as many of you do. I do want to say, I meant to start by saying, wow, the talks were amazing today. It was so great to hear everything. I love that term voluntold. I'm like, I think I'm going to start calling it volungation, because you're also obligated. Great term. Great stuff on young offspring. Just the whole thing was great. So thank you, everyone else. That was my other conclusion, was this was a great symposium. I didn't put that in there. I'm still recruiting, man. It's in the chat. I'm recruiting also anyone from a non-represented group. Please, please, please. We have a slew of acknowledgements, and this isn't even all of them. These are the ones that require acknowledgement due to their grants. These are recruitment sources. We have a phenomenal team that we need to thank. We have phenomenal interviewers. Everyone on this study has a degree in counseling or has extensive training. We have like a little final exam that one of the PhD counselors has to approve you to interview. So it's incredibly heart-wrenching, these interviews. And again, I could give a whole lecture on all of the dropouts we had, and they're for reasons that are, I'll just give you one. We frequently had situations where the care recipient was in the hospital. And often that was a UTI, that was some other things. And I was talking to a neurologist who directs a center on Lewy body dementia. And I said, oh, there's all this comorbidity. And she said, it's not comorbidity. They cannot empty the bladder due to the neurological symptoms. And so they get UTIs. They don't fully cough. And so they get pneumonia. It's not it is not comorbidity. It is the disease. So this was incredibly challenging to do. But, we're grateful to everyone. I also write a Psychology Today blog, and I wrote one on Lewy body dementia in collaboration with the Lewy Body Dementia Association scientific officer and director of outreach. You can just Google Karen Fingerman, Psychology Today, Lewy body. Anyways, we're trying to publicize more about the study, and it's a very good basic overview. Finally, hold the date, October 16th. We will be back in touch, but we are again doing something with the Lewy Body Dementia Association and some of the top scholars in the world on Lewy body. And there'll be research talks, there'll be an overview, and there will be a panel of people experiencing Lewy body and their caregivers. So I'll make sure you know about it. And thank you.